2000. Ooh, I'm representing Eyeseeme. Let's do it. Aha. Eyeseeme, 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 Eyeseeme. Hope bunch of them see this.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeffrey Blair, co-owner of the Eyeseeme African American Children's Bookstore. And I have a special spotlight program today. I have the author, Micheal Anderson, on with me, and she actually just put out her second book of the Zoey Lyndon series, Zoey Lyndon and the Stick Finger Bandit. Let me make sure I get it on screen. Yes, Zoey Lyndon and the Stick Finger Bandit. And that title really stands out to me because my best friend in high school, his name was Lyndon. So it always stuck with me. But I'm happy that she's here. And I wanted to introduce you guys to her if you haven't heard about her in the book series already. And she's going to be at Eyeseeme this weekend, August 28th, 11 a.m. to sign the book for you. But for a few minutes, you get to know her, get the story behind the book, a little summary of the book, and hopefully edify you about why the books are so important. So, Micheal Anderson, welcome to Eyeseeme Spotlight. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Great. Congratulations on the next book in the Zoey Lyndon series.
Thank you.
The first one was Big Move to the Lou.
Yeah, that's such a cool name, I think.
I
love
did,
the name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Tell me about it. Tell me about the series and the inspiration for the series.
Right. So this was really just a labor of love. I've always enjoyed writing, but I got away from it and kind of rediscovered that passion once I became an empty nester. So, but all through, school, college, I did, writing was something that I did well. My daughters would, ask for me to help them with their papers, their applications to college. But it wasn't until I was an empty nester that I started to really consider writing.
Nice.
And so I started a blog, and through that, it just kind of reignited that desire to tell a story. And so I wrote the story. The story was just in me, and I think we all have stories in us. Mm-hmm. It's just getting them out. So when I finally sat down to write, I was thinking that I was going to write a little short story, for maybe a 5 or 6 year old. But it just kept coming and it just would not stop pouring out, and decided to make it a series. And the series focuses on STEM. So the unique name, Zoey Lyndon's Big Move to the Lou, of course, St. Louis.
Absolutely.
Yes. She moves from Philadelphia. And so in the story, each story is its own unique story, but it also focuses on an aspect of STEM. So we deal with anxiety and the children's need to fit in, to want to be a part of something, finding their own way, learning to navigate. There's bullies that are in this series. There's just a drama, there's just a lot of stuff. And so the whole school dynamic, of what's happening in the classroom and in the cafeteria, and even home life. But that's kind of what the series is about. But again, each book focuses on some aspect of STEM. So the first 2 are science. The third one is going to be engineering. So that's kind of what is unique to this, is that it's a story told from a Black girl perspective. So that's really important right there, because so many times we have stories that are told, but are not told in our own voice.
Right.
And so in this story, it's told from her perspective. And so kids connect to that. And it's not just Black kids, all kids are connecting to this story. And so I thought that was very important, because I wanted to show positive imaging with the family. So there's a strong family dynamic here, but there's also, showing a Black girl that's interested in science. That's not really the stereotype that we hear.
Right.
And then there's also, having that STEM focus and being good at that, and not dumbing herself down to fit in, so that she embraces that. So I think that this is a really, really good story. And one thing I wanted to share, which was I think is kind of funny, is when I was writing the story, remembering that this is told from the Black perspective. There's a line in the book, and the husband is telling the wife that she put her foot in the meatloaf. And that my editor totally did not understand what was happening. In fact, thought that I misspoke and said, I think what you're trying to say is she put her foot in her mouth. Well, no, that's not what I meant to say.
That's right.
What I meant to say was, it was really good.
Right.
The husband was appreciating it, and that was how he expressed it. And so what that showed me was that was a cultural reference.
Cultural,
and so
absolutely.
When you have people writing our stories, we lose that, we lose those cultural references because those are things that they don't know about.
Right.
So it's very important to me to tell this story from her perspective. And there's little nuances like that maybe everybody doesn't get, but if you read the context clues, you probably will. But because it's from her perspective and her family is who they are, it was important for me to keep things like that in the story.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's so important. That actually adds, I think, to the value from two perspectives. One, as an African-American reader, anytime you see things like that, I don't know, you get a warm feeling about that, right? It gets this like, it's almost like, wow, we say that in my family, and now it's in the book. Like it validates it, and really, it helps connect you with the story. And then from the other side, you get to understand other cultures. Right. You get exposed to other cultures. We get to know each other more, a little bit about that. And and it really helps, just a win-win situation going both ways. So I kudos to you for doing that and not listening to your editor.
Yes. That was one of the few occasions when I was like, I'm gonna just
gotta keep that
one.
one.
I think I'm gonna keep this in the story.
Gotta keep that one. Absolutely. So that's great. And I know this came out during COVID, right?
It did.
It was sort of hard probably to get the word out during that time, but I still heard a lot of positive things just through different circles around about this. And so I'm really, congratulations again for the first book. And then the second book, Sticky Finger Bandit. Give us a little take on this one. What is Zoey doing in this book? Oh, by the way, I really connected with this one too, because I had a similar experience with my children, because we're actually from the East Coast. We're from New Jersey, and we moved to St. Louis in middle school. So there were a lot of challenges along the way and trying to, fit in and find friends and just get a new routine in St. Louis, So it's been like, 11 years now. So I guess they got it down packed, but it was an adjustment. So
it is. I mean, the East Coast, we were outside of New Jersey. So we were the last town in Pennsylvania, Easton. So it's the Lehigh Valley area, actually past Philadelphia. But I wrote the story, her coming from Philadelphia, just because that sounds better than coming from Easton. But
right, more familiar.
So, but to back it up just a little bit, so the story did come out during COVID, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But the story just kind of, I think I just found a niche for it, and it just kind of took off because things were virtual. I ended up having so many virtual meetings with schools and Girl Scout troops and book clubs that, within the first couple of months, I had so close to 2,000 copies of the book, and that's kind of unheard of for, a self-published author.
Yes.
During COVID. So it was amazing. And so the book has been doing really well. The second book, honestly, I took a lot of feedback from all of those meetings that I was having. I was having tons of meetings with kids, and they were saying that, hey, we want mystery. We want drama. We want crushes. So I was listening to what they were saying and take notes. And so some of what they were saying was already at the pulse of where I was at. And I just kind of incorporated some of the things that they wanted. So as far as the mystery, so Zoey Lyndon and the Sticky Finger Bandit is a mystery. It is filled with drama.
Nice.
So anyone reading the first book, they already know the main players in the second book. There are a few new characters, but they already know who those main characters are because of the first book. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different things happening at the same time, which really keeps your interest. I also decided to incorporate a much heartier teacher's guide with this one. So there's a resource for the first one that I'm revamping, and this is a 19-page teacher's guide. So it covers 3 state standards on reading and comprehension. And this can be easily included or incorporated into your classroom curriculum or homeschool curriculum. There's also a science activity that you can do that's at the back of it. And then there is a subject, a topic of discussion. And I believe that's on microaggression, which comes up in the book. And so this is just really a really well put together resource that's free that comes with the book.
Absolutely. And that's a great touch, because like you said, as you're speaking, there's like so many audiences that fit this, that's perfect for it. Like you said, classrooms, homeschoolers, schools, teachers, classrooms that want to inspire, and you help to make it really easy so you can sort of pick out some of the highlights of some of the stuff that they really could look at, the reading comprehension and some of the other subtopics that are there as well. So I think that's a really nice touch and really helpful. You know, I think, you know, off camera, we were talking about, you know, the importance of STEM and how, you know, the books really help sort of bring that out in children, and that it's important that, you know, even as, you know, whether the children, and especially young girls, whether they are inspired at school or at home, you know, if they have that gift, it's something that we should really be fostering, you know?
Right.
So maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Right. So I have 2 daughters. My daughters are grown now, but I have encouraged them to pursue STEM for, you know, since my oldest was in 2nd grade, my youngest was in kindergarten. Some people might say, oh, that's too early, but really, you know, it's not. And I think one thing that we noticed was that we had very studious girls, and they were naturally good at certain things, and the things that they were good at was math and science.
Nice.
So for me, it was not really a reach to encourage that and cultivate that and want to nurture that in them. So I would do things like they were involved in Girl Scouts, but I would also, within Girl Scouts, I would look for engineering opportunities or STEM opportunities to allow them to participate in. So I was always looking for something where they can engage. And actually, I remember, I think they had went to Villanova, which was probably a STEM activity that they went to. That was the first one that I can recall. And it was through Girl Scouts, a partnership with Villanova, I think it's outside of Philly. And they made solar panel go-karts. And they actually made this little bug, which I don't even know why I still have this. It is.
Because you're a proud parent.
And, you know, so this is a solar panel bug.
Oh,
so
nice.
This thing here is a solar panel, and it's just a bug. And so when sunlight hits it or light hits it, it actually just vibrates.
Oh, wow.
So this was something that they made probably back in 4th grade.
Wow.
But, and I don't know why I still have this. But there it is.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So you can imagine that being an impact on them.
Yeah, and so I've encouraged that. And so today, my oldest daughter is a scientist. She works at Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Nice.
My youngest is a chemical engineer who's currently earning her PhD in biomedical engineering. And she actually wants to write policy for the government. So she wants to probably work in the Surgeon General's office, you know, in policy. So these girls are not your typical stereotypes that you hear about, that you see. And so my messaging is, you know, I want young kids, especially Black and brown kids, to know that you can look like my daughters, who are very young, attractive, smart young women, and be scientists. or
Yes.
be engineers.
And that's cool.
And typically what I
Mhm.
get when I ask that question is they're old, white, they have crazy hair, they
Mm.
wear glasses, they have a lab coat. Like these are the things that I typically get from kids when they are describing what a scientist looks like.
So, but Zoey Lyndon is breaking that mold and really
Exactly.
trying to let us think differently, especially for our children to think differently about what does a scientist look like.
Right.
Because
And that's done intentionally, for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely, and I applaud you for that, and want to definitely help get the word out as much as possible for this series. 'Cause I think it's really valuable, for our children and for our future. And the idea, if someone, a child, any
Mhm.
child, but in particular African American children or African American girls, have this ability, but then it's never fostered, I think that's something that we should not feel comfortable with, and we should do everything we can to make sure all our
Right.
children reach their full potential.
Right. And
So
that's,
it's important.
well, and I think that that's something that we have to normalize is,
Yeah.
speaking things into existence, recognizing, even if it's not your child, recognizing someone else's, gifts and talents and being able to foster and nurture that even in someone else's child.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's something that we have to normalize is that, you can do this. And the reason that I think STEM is so important is that as I've been, doing this work, I'm learning the percentages, and right now it's about 27% women in STEM fields across the board, across the
Wow.
spectrum. But when you break it down, so I just happen to have a daughter who's an engineer. So that percentage is 21%
Mm.
for women. Now, I don't know what it is for Black women or brown women, but I know that it's
It's gonna
significantly
be
smaller than
less.
that
Absolutely.
21%.
Yeah.
And for computer science, for example, is 19%. And so these are the top two of the top STEM fields that pay really well.
Yes.
Why aren't we having more women pursue these?
Right.
And so with this series, I want to normalize girls being in STEM, Black and brown girls being in STEM and enjoying it, because there's a lot of science in each of the books. There's
Yeah.
hands-on science activities and experiments um, that you can do at home. And some of what's been really cool, Jeffrey, is that some of the girls that I meet with and some of the kids that I meet with have taken it upon themselves to do some of these science experiments at home.
Mm.
So, for example, there is growing crystals, and there was a Girl Scout troop, I think, and they just took it upon themselves they thought it would be fun, and they did it, and then they sent me pictures, and I
Wow.
was like, oh my goodness, this
Yes.
is amazing that these
Inspired
girls
them.
are just
Yes.
doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get letters, and I had to open up a PO box because I was getting so many letters, and I'm like, so I have a PO box, and some of the parents, when they send the letters, they're telling me that their daughters, who are mostly white, so I'm gonna say 95% of the girls who I've met with, I'm not saying reading the book, but who I've met with, are not Black and brown, but they're connecting to the story just the same because it's a good story. And
Yes.
they're reading
Nice.
it 3 and 4 times.
Yes, nice, nice. That speaks to the universality of the book, right? To all,
Absolutely.
and that's great. And kudos to you, to that entire inspiring, the individual. And it's like, we talked about this a little bit, that the earlier you start, the better, right?
Right.
If you wait until high school, and it's never too late, but it's sometimes it may be an uphill battle to try to expose
Right.
children to STEM and get them interested in it. But if you start early, it's not a hard sell. Children are
No,
real inquisitive,
no,
and you can
not at
find out
all.
what they like and then just to really foster it. So it's just putting a little bit of time and interest, and you're making it easier because you're providing the books, so that so that parents can, actually have it and be able to utilize it as a tool to really just sort of gauge their children's interest and just spark the natural curiosity. So I really
Absolutely.
applaud what you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
you're going to be here at Eyeseeme Bookstore this Saturday, August 28th at 11 a.m. And so I want you guys to please come out and support Micheal Anderson and Zoey Lyndon Series. and she'll be able to get copies of it, also be able to get signed copies of the book as well.
Right.
Really looking forward to the event and have you here. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware, so you don't miss out on it. So any final words for the individuals before we sign off?
No, I'm looking forward to coming to the bookstore. I was by earlier and I absolutely love the space. So
Thank you.
yes, definitely come out and support. And if you can't physically be there, you can always visit online and purchase a copy online through Eyeseeme, or you can go to my website.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I hope to see you guys. Spread the word this Saturday, August 28th, 11 a.m. The author, Micheal Anderson, and her book series, Zoey Lyndon. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
2000. Ooh, I'm representing Eyeseeme. Let's do it. Aha. Eyeseeme, 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 Eyeseeme. Hope until them see themselves in his